federal government of Nigeria has ordered oil marketers to negotiate with the Nigerian Association of Road Transport Owners. This is to avert the planned suspension of operations by members with respect to the lifting of petroleum products nationwide beginning today. Our correspondent further gathered that the federal government, through the downstream regulator NMDPRA and the Petroleum Ministry, is meeting with Road Transport Association members as well as other parties today in Abuja to sort out the issues. Well, Arise business anchor Boason Omofaye joins us now to discuss these stories and more. Thank you so much for joining us on Newsday. Well, first of all,
thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Now, let's start with Nigeria's unemployment rate, which has risen to 5%.
Yes.
Now, you're the analyst. What does this mean for the economy?
I'm a journalist, so I look at I look at the numbers. But if you want me to analyze the numbers, 4.2% or 5%. For the third quarter ended September 2023, if you this MBS, the Statistics Office, is using a new methodology, and this is a little bit curious, and I'm sure everyone in the room have expressed whether this methodology was appropriate for the Nigerian system. Unemployment from 4.2 to 5% shows just about 0.whatever% upside. The whole idea, whether if you work 1 hour per week or 1 hour per week in the last 7 days really mean that you are now employed, is subject to interpretations and whether everyone believes that that is the reality. But what's the reality on ground? Is the fact that we have an economy that is largely skewed towards informal economy, hand-to-mouth economy, folks at the bottom of the pyramid, where you have the majority of those of us who are just trying to make a living day by day. If you take it a little bit further, then you have you and I who could afford to drive by a little bit. Then you have another layer of folks, then you get to the folks at the very top. So at the very bottom of the pyramid, where folks are collapsing on the day because they haven't eaten for 3 days. And if you say 1 hour per week, if you, for example, I use Lagos, for example, or the typical Kano market or Onitsha market, and these women, some of them with kids, with babies strapped to their bags, and they're doing what they call the alaru, those who help you do haulage in the local market in which you buy bulk goods and whatever, and they are the one who use this very heavy whatever to help you convey to wherever the car park, whatever it is. And if they work for 1 hour a day in the carrying market in Lagos and Opiweka, in Onitsha, or the Kano market, or in Area market in Aba, or the Okemapo market in Ibadan, would you say that 1 hour and what they will earn 1 hour a week is enough for that woman and that baby, even if she has no husband and no other kids, enough for them to feed under today's inflation and inflationary pressure and cost of goods and services? Would that be enough to transport her back home and back to the market the next day to engage in such very menial labor? How much of the folks that you're seeing on television right now through these images are able to make enough for 1 hour a day? But these folks come out every day just to make out a living. So you can say that they are employed, okay, because they are self-employed. So she sits down and hawk in traffic and sell yam, tubers, momo, whatever, fish, dry fish. And you can say if she comes out every day, 5 days a week, then that means she's gainfully employed. So folks says, well, that sounds reasonable if you use that as a model. But what is the value of that daily income? From these folks whose the basic from what they make, 20 naira here, 10 naira here, 15 naira here, 100 naira here, they have all kinds of illegal tax and tariffs being paid to the Omonile, to the KBSC, to the Bale, to the local government, to the state governments, to any other person who just have whatever is called a muzzle to come around and harass everybody and say, I'm collecting 100 naira, I'm collecting 200. What is left for the Babalajo to collect from then? And how does it? Now, if you put all of this together, the poverty or the misery index in Nigeria is so high. How do I relate it to this unemployment that is just tiptoeing in such a country like last year when you've got so much problem with the Naira redesign and whether there was enough cash? You had so much brouhaha and hot fever around the elections. And then we're done with all that. Then you got petrol prices go up, removed in June, right? And then you have the exchange rate modification whatsoever, following through all to the September, which is the third quarter, which MBS is giving us the unemployment figure. Does that, those numbers, does it really reflect the reality of what is on the ground in Nigeria? I think if you do, I will go for a vox pop on the street and say, Toka, what do you think? Or what do you think, folks on the street? I'm sure everybody will likely throw the microphone on our face and say, but what are you talking about? How could this be the unemployment figure? Hey, look at the unemployment is 12.3%, and unemployment is informal employment and youth unemployment. And these are single-digit figures. But look at the informal employment figure, because most people are just working from hand to mouth. So can we put the two together? If you look at the figure of self-employed people and wage employment, you can see the wage employment very low at the left side, and you find folks who are self-employed at the other side. That looks like it's going up. But again, we've got a problem with that, because if wage employment is 12.7, I just hold it there, self-employed is about 87.3. And that tells you that most Nigerians are just simply working for themselves, in which government, as it were, is not creating jobs steadily, in which there is not so much job in the wage employment. It also makes government losing so much in terms of tax revenue, whether it's corporate tax or personal income tax, what they call the PIT. And then you have the employment to population ratio, 75.6%. That looks that you have majority of Nigerians working. However, when you now translate the self-employed as to people who are really working, but are they really working, or are they just suffering to ensure they do not fall down and die? Now, so we need to go back to what's the definition of that self-employed in the real sense of it. Are they really self-employed in the real sense, or they are just doing the want to stay alive? Is this a stay alive, or they're just self-employed? Yeah, you have a nice garage, you're selling automobiles, you sit at the back office, and folks are selling cars. It's one-man business. So you're self-employed. So that's it. 100 million, 200 million watts enterprise. Or folks are just simply on the road, hawking under this very hot sun with so much cost associated with what they are doing, so that they do not fall down and die. They don't want to go into criminal enterprise. They don't want to go into crime. They want to believe that there's dignity in labor. Are they what they are doing, or they are comfortably self-employed? Now, those who are self-employed are also suffering massively. If you look at the exchange rate, 2030, 2060, exchange rate, naira to the pound sterling, 1,600, thereabout, to the dollar. Would you say that that is really self-employed? So some of these folks who are self-employed, in the sense of being self-employed, are barely going through that narrow path, not the one that leads to righteousness and life eternal. They are trying to avoid the road to hell. If there's a fire, whatever, you can add to it, because they're going through hell right now. So these dozens of millions of Nigerians that you see on the street every day, working more than 1 hour, some working nearly 10, 12, 13 hours, just to be able to put one single meal on their table. Should we call them, we should tick our box and say, oh yeah, they're employed? Is that what majority of our folks, the fat cats, is that what they call self-employed? Is that the kind of employment that they have? Is that the kind of employment their children and their relatives, is that what they have? Yeah. I don't think so. So we need to go back to the whole unemployment and employment figure and look at our misery and poverty index and begin to create job on a sustainable basis, and job that is sustainable for people on a daily basis. Look at the crowd that you saw during the elections. Folks are there, not necessarily because they're whatever, but they just want to go there and just find something to see and have a sense of life. That is not what just called self-employment. We know what self-employment is in advanced economies, in which people, they are self-employed, can pay tax, they can afford holidays when they want to have it, they can pay their bills. How many of these folks that you see on the street can afford to pay their bills? Whether it is electricity, whether it is transportation, whether it is school fees for their kids. You get text messages every minute for those who are self-employed, whether they are tailors, artisans, they're begging you, can you support my school children for the next semester? Well, they've paid the school fees, but there are some exams and some books they've not bought. Can you please pitch in as well? Was that what we called employment figure in Nigeria? Or we're just sitting down here and deceiving ourselves with the numbers? Look, we can lie to anybody else, but when we start lying to ourselves with numbers and using the numbers to cover, South Africa is dealing with 32 to 35% unemployment, and see the level of theft that is going on high tension cables in South Africa, because the blacks are feeling the impact of steep unemployment in South Africa, and they're resorting to crimes. They don't have the kind of access to finance they should have to get investment and finance to support their businesses in South Africa. So what are most of these folks resorting to? They're resorting to steal utility cables. The level of theft is so huge, it's affecting government, it's affecting electricity in South Africa. So there's a big problem here. Folks will have to resort to something. Crime is going on. The number of those who are homeless in South Africa is just elsewhere. They just occupy buildings. Folks, they went to court, said they can stay there because they can't afford to pay rent. Now, if you look at the most advanced economy in Africa, suffering from between 32 and 35% unemployment rate, and you see now in Nigeria, not so advanced an economy, and we say we're doing 5% unemployment because we're using a different methodology. Well, I'm a journalist. I don't know how to do methodology, but I know what I see on a daily basis, and I've lived 50 years plus of my life on this soil, so I know what it feels like. That unemployment figure does not really, if you take it now to the man on the street, he's going to say, sorry, this is not my figure.
Clearly things aren't matching up, not only in terms of definitions, but in terms of how much people have in their own pockets. But let's move on to another subject. This one is the federal government ordering the oil marketers to negotiate with the NARTO, the transportation workers and road transportation owners, to stop this planned strike that that they're threatening to have. What's your take on this?
My take is simple. The NATO folks are very clear. The truck drivers. Look, you use the trucks to transport diesel and kerosene and petrol for Boason to pick up at the gas station, right? But they've got to use they got to use diesel at 1,200 or so to drive the truck to the depot to load and drive on roads, bypass, whatever, for hours to destination to get to the petrol station or the fuel station. So they are consuming, so they are feeling the heat as much as the end users. So they are saying, look, we are paying so much for these heavy-duty vehicles that will have to transport these goods, petrol products, to the end consumers, or at least to the gas stations. It's becoming unbearable for us. It's as basic as that. What the downstream regulator, the NMDPRA, will be able to do is what I don't know, whether they're going to give them free fuel for the truck owners, or they'll say, well, instead of it, because these guys have to buy this diesel also at the retail market to put inside their trucks to be able to provide the trucks to deliver to you and I. So it is garbage in, garbage out. It's as simple as that. Their feedstock is what you and I also purchase. So they go to the same open market to purchase it at 1,200 per liter for diesel. Manufacturers do the same thing. Homes do the same thing. Everybody else pay. But hold on. I'm just getting some news that we can't fix electricity because even government in the Aso Villa is also owing the power distribution companies. Oh, I don't want to go there because there are a lot of figures. And this has been very historic in which state governments, governors' houses are owing so much when it comes to electricity bill. So when we say about 1 point something whatever trillion of naira is being owed to the discos, we should ask ourselves, who are the biggest debtors? Government agencies and what have you, the man on the street, businesses, people are trying to bypass them. Look, we need to reset this system in which we have a mechanism in which we run things transparently, accountably, and if government is buying and people are buying, we should be able to see transparency on the table, which everybody pay their bills, whether there's a government or it's Boason or anyone else. You don't have the right to, everybody has the right to cheat the government. Oh, by the way, the government does not have the right to cheat itself. Oh, I'm sorry if there's anything like that. But again, that's just was it. Yes, because the government are part owners of the discos and the gencos. So if you take bulk electricity, whatever from them, as a ministry or a parastater, please pay up. Because you're asking the ordinary man to pay up. You have to lead by example. And that's the truth. I don't want to name names of state governments, but some of these are already on, you can Google it, what XY state government is owing like 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years ago to the discos. But they can't go there, and some of them can't turn the hands of the governors to ask to get paid, because you know what that will mean, because they sit next to the state governor's office.
Oh, you've painted a very dire picture, you know, but I would have loved some reassurances that we are not going to be queuing for petrol anytime soon.
No, but that would be really good. I'm sure they can resolve this. Maybe they'll give them some level of subsidy. So instead of the trucks buying at 1,200, maybe they get at 800 or 900 somewhere, give them some rebate and then cushion it, because if they go on strike, the common man will be the one who will feel it the most.
Well, I guess we have to wait and see. Arise business anchor, Boason Omofaye, thank you so much for joining us on Newsday.
Thank you, Awa. Thank you.